Councillor Baldock. Anybody else wish to speak to it? Councillor Robson.
Yeah. One of the challenges, I mean, let's put it on the record. Look at the decision makers around the room here and look at the level of thinking that you're getting and the level of response you're getting, the level of engagement with this particular topic. There's a message there for when you engage with people, you need to provide an environment that's conducive to them engaging and not talk to them after they've been locked in a room for 8 hours or whatever it might be. I mean, it's important. We need to be thinking this through. We can't pass something through because it's the end of the day and people are hungry. That being the case, what I'm hearing is this investment, if you like, is not so large that later on Gloucester Road couldn't be seen. And, you know, the modal separation thing, which is the ideal in a multimodal transport system to get modal separation, particularly on the basis of my personal experience, separating cyclists from buses. It is not a good mix, and certainly not a good mix in commuter traffic, and you'll have a fair bit of that down these things. I'm concerned about the funneling effect into an unresolved area which already has known danger. What I'm hearing is we're going to measure this, and because we're measuring it, we will manage it. If we get a sudden uptake, if we start noticing traffic volumes have reached a certain level, we will react. I'm assuming we will practice agility when we, you know, move forward with this. We will monitor it. We will make sure it's safe for all the users. I'm concerned that what I've got here in terms of report doesn't document that for me. In other words, on the basis of what I've got in front of me, I don't really have much in the way of evidence for my decision making, which is why I'm speaking and getting this recorded. Because I want to know that if any assumption I'm making here is incorrect, staff will advise me of that case now rather than post hoc. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm being heard. Look, it's really important that we don't, you know, commit ourselves to something here that will cause a problem down the line. You know, I come back to it, that modal separation thing's really important. I think the Gloucester Road option that's been raised by Councillor Morris is something we have to give consideration to.
Thank you, Councillor Robson. Breaking all standing order rules. I'm going to ask Christine Jones just to speak to that to give you some clarity around some of the points that you raised. Thank you, Christine. Then we'll carry on.
So I just really want to confirm that a lot of this information was presented previously. So the purpose of this report was just to come back on those few. You asked us to come back in terms of the MSMS Report and make sure that those issues have been identified, and to give you an opportunity post that to make a decision, as you have in 15th Ave, whether to proceed. So the previous reports, which we worked through, made it really clear that this was a trial, that we were trying to get some learnings from that, and that information would then be utilised as part of the implementation and planning and implementation for the broader cycle plan across the whole of the city. So it hasn't been, we haven't done all of the model because this is actually still an input that will flow into the model. So maybe that was incorrect of us to assume that all of that would be picked up again. So happy to go back if there's any gaps in that, but we were sort of trying to pick up from that point rather than relitigate the previous decision where the council was predominantly happy and had approved for this project to proceed, subject to us picking up any issues coming out of that MSMS report, which we've addressed in this report.
I think the one thing that has happened since we've last discussed this or previously discussed this is we have all stood on Farm Street and listened to the local community there, something that we've been remiss in doing for a couple of years, I think they told us. And when you stand in that place and then you start thinking about potentially funneling more cyclists in there, leaving aside the Leander option, it does give you pause. So I just want to know that that's been factored in, that's all.
Good points raised. Thank you. Councillor Baldock.
Yeah, not making the decision because we're hungry and haven't had anything to eat, but when we stood on Farm Street and when we looked at some of the reports that were there then, once we finalised where the transport, where the bus terminal goes, we get rid of 50% of the bus movements down Farm Street and Leander Street. That's a game changer of what will affect that street. And so yes, the cycleway thing isn't resolved, but there is a commitment from our staff working on that cycle network that we do not unless there's just absolutely no alternative, that we mix cyclists and buses. It's something learnt from Christchurch, it's something learnt in other places. So I'm confident that we can pass this and still achieve the things we need to do going forward today.
Any further speakers to DC 220? There is not. So I'll put that DC 220. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? And carried. Thank you, councillors. That is the end of the meeting. I was going to have a chairperson's report, but I will not. This is... No. It's in appendices. These are all appendices. Now we're going to move into confidential. Moved by Councillor Baldock, seconded by Councillor Clout. Move into confidential. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, and carried. Just going to adjourn for a couple of minutes. We've got some issues turning off the recording and the live streaming, so just please sit tight just for a minute. Thank you, everyone. Councillor Morris, can you just have a look on YouTube and see if it's still recording for me, please?
Madam Chair, the live stream is on and is presently being viewed by one member of the public, which could possibly be me. No sooner did I say that, another member of the public joined. So we now have two people watching. It's still on. And there's Councillor Clout looking very handsome.